Here with Ikaika Malloe. Ikaika, the first question I have for you is, does some studly, strong safety at the University of Washington back in the day become a defensive line coach?
Right? Well, once I knew I wanted to become a coach, my mentor became Randy Hart. And, the one thing he said was, if you want to be a coach, learn everything. And he said, start from the front, work your way back. And because I was a graduate assistant in the front end, I actually started to get some appreciation about the contact. Like, they got no choice. You're either hitting somebody or you're getting hit, right? When I played, I got the back pedal. So I didn't have to hit every single play. And that grew on me. Now, I was like, man, that's something. Now, that means your technique has to be, for the most part, flawless. You have to recruit physical players that love to hit no matter what. And because of that, I became a defensive line coach. It's really because of Randy Hart and his influence on kind of like my personality. And then in terms of just the coaching world, like he said, learn everything. Don't just be the DB guy that talks about coverage and not know the front and that way.
Yeah. Talk about the Husky program. You were here as a player, now as a coach, how it's evolved, coming back full circle. It's got to be so awesome for you.
It is. It's really awesome. And full circle, now I'm on the standpoint that I want to give back everything that I've learned when you were a player. And, I came in the year after the national championship. So when you came in at that year, you started to learn, one, expectations of fans, two, expectations of your locker room, which is way more harder to live up to, and then work ethic. Like, for me, I considered myself a blue-collar person coming into our program, and then realized after my freshman year, I didn't know anything about what it really meant to be a blue-collar dog. And that was passed on from generations, and, obviously your class before me. And I took some pride in that when we became seniors, to try to pass that down onto future Huskies. And now I got a chance as a coach, taking it from a different perspective, to kind of relive that past and make sure people don't forget the stuff that we went through and the stuff that we expect. Now me being a coach as well as a fan, I think what we expect when you use the term dogs, when you use the term blue collar. And I think that's been a challenge for me as a coach.
Yeah. Well, you've been remarkable, your track record as a recruiter. And as we know, recruiting is the lifeline of college football. What is the secret to success wherever you've been in your ability to recruit and bring kids to your program?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I think sometimes I view my recruiting as a little bit unorthodox. I'm very much a relationship type of coach. I that is what I do when they're here. And so I'm trying to get that across as much as possible with social media, with phone calls, talking to parents. But, I think ultimately the players that I have had success with and tried to recruit here not only fit our program, but I think fit my style of coaching. I think they accept my style of coaching. And I think relationships has a big thing to do. We talk about this whole built for life. When I came here with Coach Peterson and now with Coach Lake, that thing, it hit the nail on the head for me, because that's what I felt like my family is all about. And now we found a program, or really coming back to our program, I should say, that family was everything, relationships were everything, life after football was everything. And now I get to just bring it home.
Yeah. You lost your head coach, defensive coordinator. You talked about Randy Hart, but just the passing of Jim Lambright, another great Husky, one of the best of all time. Talk about what Jim meant to you.
Man, he was everything. Back in the days, he was a recruiter of Hawaii, and the thing that we loved about him was he not only accepted and embraced our culture, but he knew how to coach up the Polynesian kids, how to love up the Polynesian kids. And we didn't take that lightly. It was, when you think about it, it was a person from a different culture coming to our island, and he was a father figure to us. And when we got here, he knew how to push our buttons. He knew for sure we wanted to be blue-collared like the rest of the program. But, behind closed doors, it was something amazing to me to see somebody that you kind of feared on the field, and for him to show his soft side. So I really miss that guy, and when I was coaching and he came to practice, no different than Randy, I was nervous. This is a guy that I kind of looked up to, and now I had to perform in a different aspect, a different world, in front of the same guy that you try to always please, So I'm going to really miss him being on our sidelines, being at practice with you and Randy. But, I know he's always looking on, and I'll continue to try to make him proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's move into your defensive line room. We know about the upperclassmen. I mean, there's some talented guys coming back. Levi, Josiah, Tryon and Bowman on the outside. But I think Husky fans are really excited about this next young wave group of big-time recruits that you brought into the building. We saw a little bit of Thule last year, but we want to know about Palma and Tuatele and Bandis and some of these guys. Can you just give us the overall, feel in that room and where some of these young guys are at in their development?
Yeah, those, spring ball would have been really fun for everybody, including myself, to see the development of those guys. Sama is basically a beast, so to speak. I mean, he's a monster. I mean, he looks like what people remember what Vita looked like. And, for watching him on scout team was impressive. And he's going against now an NFL player with Nick Harris, so he had the best practice you could have had. But I think what you'll find for him, very powerful guy that could own a gap. He's way more athletic than you give him credit for. Very smart in the room. We already got Zoom meetings, and he could tell you what a zone pressure is, or bogus in the NFL. He could tell you what is the 3 deep and the 4 under. And so it's really impressive with him. Tui, kind of the leader of that group right now with that freshman group. And he has a very different mentality. That guy's always pushing himself. He had a taste of what it's like to travel, and he's earned that right. I mean, the room itself wanted him to travel, and his roommate was Levi. So he's learning from the top end. And for him, what you'll see from him is how smart and crafty that guy is. He might not be the strongest yet. He's still in developmental stages, but in terms of how to play the technique, in terms of what to read, pre-snap alignment, he talks right before the play. So he's very mature in the mental aspect of it. Jacob and Noah are about the same. You will see them in high motor players. Those guys are nonstop, always going. Effort is their biggest asset right now as they try to build with their techniques. And then on the outside, Laiatu, I mean, that dude is for sure a guy that we're going to be excited. He's a Dawg. And the guy that I'm kind of excited for on the outside backers is Zion Tupuola.
Yeah.
He got such a high ceiling, So the classes that we brought in, I think as a whole, the defensive staff, for me personally, I'm really excited because they're moved into a spot that they have to compete. They have to get ready to play. And I think those guys are hungry for it, So Husky fans should be excited. This is a really good class that I think will pay dividends for sure.
And how does this shortened off season affect your group as a whole? I mean, what are these Zoom meetings like? I mean, how many guys do you have? I mean, you have one of the biggest rooms on the team, right? I mean,
yeah.
How many total guys on this defensive line do you have on a Zoom meeting?
Well, we're separating them, so between Coach K and I.
Yeah.
So right now I just have 9 in my room.
Okay.
And what we've done is kind of take it to a different level in terms of just the mental aspect of it. I mean, you would appreciate it coming from the NFL, but we're watching NFL film. We're watching opponent film. We're going through our own techniques, and then not only learning our own techniques, but then getting critique on it or even teaching. Like Levi, he was teaching on one of the meetings already. So those guys are starting to become teachers. We're starting to really master the mental part of it, and we even had some guest speakers on there with Greg Gaines came on, Danny Shelton, Jalen Johnson, who's now a coach at a high school and used to play. And the things that our players are starting to be able, because of it, you got guys like those are coming back and saying, make sure you learn the mental part of the game. At the NFL, it's all about that.
Sure.
Everybody's just as big. Everybody's just as strong. But if you can get that little niche, so to speak, to beat your opponent, and I think that's what we're starting to get better at in our Zoom meetings.
What's the ceiling for Levi?
That's a really good question. And especially for a person like him, he is really hard on himself, and he pushes the limits on everything. I mean, he actually had a conversation with Greg, but him coming back, there's so many details that he wants to fix. but I really think he could leave this program as being at least in that conversation of one of the best defensive linemen that we've seen in a long time. And there's tradition of defensive linemen here. So to make a statement like that, I know what I'm putting him against, but I really do. I think his ceiling is almost limitless, that he can be one of the best that we've talked about in a long time.
Yeah. What do you think that your group did at best last year overall as a group? I mean, God, you still held opponents to just 19 points a game and really had a solid year once again on defense. But where is the most room for improvement for the defensive line group in 2020?
Yeah, production and pass rush, for sure. I think we've done a decent job holding up the run. I think our inexperience was kind of taken advantage of towards the end of the games. But ultimately, we need to become a better pass rushing team, whether it be on mixed downs or on third down. And that comes not with just experience. I mean, I think it comes with learning what speed does for you. And whether we're recruiting those guys, we're manufacturing by going to sub packages, or at least in my end, those guys are really sound in technique. I think there is a technique factor in terms of pass rush, but we're starting to come up with schemes that fit our package, that fit our personnel. I do really think we're going to be a better pass rushing team come next year.
Well, actually, I do got one more question. Any message for Husky Nation? We're going through this tough time, but we'll be back. What you got?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, from my family to Husky Nation, I want to just give you our love and our aloha. Please stay safe. Be smart in what we're doing, whether we're at home or we're about. We would like to also stay, or at least give our thoughts and prayers out to the people in the front line that are helping, saving lives, stuff like that. But I will say this, Husky Nation, when we are back and we are rolling, whether you're in person, you're on social media, or you're watching on TV, be ready. Be ready for a really exciting season with the new era of Jimmy Lake, with our new staff and our new team. This is the new 2020 season, and let's be ready to roll, man. Go Dogs.
Thank you, Ikaika. That's great stuff, man. Go Dogs.
All right, big dog. I appreciate your time, Damon.
You got it. Be safe.
All right, man.
See ya.
See you, brother.